Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to a new segment on my channel called Spoiler Alert, where I talk about news from superhero movies and give you my speculations and theories. Since me being somewhat of a comic book guy, I kind of can expect a few things for the certain movies. So, let's get started with the Spider-Man movie for the MCU movie. Now, there's been a few castings out. There's been a few casts been added to the cast of the movie, and a few castings hasn't raised my hair yet. But it seems like the new movie wants to be multiracial with the characters, and I'm okay with that because it's modernizing Spider-Man in today's time frame of this technology-based world. So that's something I wanted to talk about for a while, and not just because I think it's something that's not going to happen. But the villains speculations have been out the door with many possible villains that they want to use. I know there was a storyline in the comics called Homecoming, and they could use some of the villains that were in it, which I find pretty skeptical up the front. They're probably just using that name, and the ironic twist is now that Spider-Man's coming back to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and all that is happening now. So I can kind of see the villains going in. I have like the top 5 villains I think might be in the movie. Now, I would like to see Kraven in this movie, not just because I can see Vulture being in this movie because Vulture is one of the earliest villains that Spider-Man has fought. And since there was some rumors of casting of Matthew McConaughey as Norman Osborn, I kind of got from the idea that they might pull from the Spectacular Spider-Man episode, the first episode of that series, where they did Vulture and Norman Osborn in a movie where Norman Osborn is the outside force of possibly later creating these other super bad guys for a criminal cartel. And I think for the movies, if they were to use a crime cartel family, I think they should go on the lines of Silvermane or Tombstone, because I don't really see Kingpin working for the on the live screen. It's not that I don't want to see him. I kind of do. It's just if you use those villains, you don't need to worry about pulling contracts from certain actors from the cinematic universe. So you can probably say, oh, he's just somebody he knew growing up, and growing up and becoming who he is now at Kingpin, he kind of has these loose connections to these other crime families, and they can use the Spider-Man movies as a template to help introduce the Netflix series characters up. You can have them mention those characters specifically by name rather than just using them as an actor for that front. Now, you could do Daredevil. You don't have to use Charlie Cox in the role. You can just have an actor play him in the suit and just say he's Daredevil. Say he's the character of Daredevil. Or you can work around certain characters. I think Mysterio would be an interesting villain they could do. But there's going to have to be some, changes to his specific character and origin. I can see it changing in one of two ways. I can say maybe he was once a SHIELD agent who, now that SHIELD has fallen, and he kind of was one of the few people who was working with Hydra, and he kind of had this technical background, and he kind of uses, he's kind of like a motorcycle character. So in my version, he's kind of like an ex-SHIELD agent, but who was working with Hydra, and uses the tech that they have laying around to become Mysterio. He could be like a threat that comes to the which brings the Captain America or Iron Man into the movie. So I can see Mysterio working in that kind of way. He was an agent of Hydra who used some of the tech that Shield had and uses it to masquerade as this character known as Mysterio, and he basically is messing with Spider-Man. He sees Spider-Man as a new kid on the front, and he's kind of getting in the way of, all these all these crime cartels, and he's kind of working as like not as an assassin, but kind of as like a pre-Craven story where he's just facing him as he's just doing his own thing, outer side forces. So that is one of the few things I could see being done in the new movie, using Mysterio as that story point. Or you can do Chameleon, which I think would be an awesome way to go. You can use Chameleon and Vulture, the first two supervillains that Spider-Man has faced in the comics. And you could have Norman Osborn as a character, but not have him to be set up for the Green Goblin in the sequel. Build it up. Because in my version of how I see Kraven is I kind of want to see him like an evil Black Panther. He's known in the universe as like an evil Black Panther character, and I think something like that could work. And he was hired from Kingpin, who's behind the bars, to say, yes, we want you to take out this character that's getting in our way of the crime cartel family, and that's what Kraven could do. Or an interesting way you can do is if you don't want to do the goblins right away, I would say do Hobgoblin, where he's kind of just has this vendetta against the crime cartels, and he's basically out to kill them, and Spider-Man has to stop him. And Shield, Captain America, and Iron Man get into the way because they see that the public, doesn't feel safe with these superheroes running amok, and Spider-Man is trying to deal with this character, and I think something like that could work for the character of Chameleon. He's kind of masquerading as Spider-Man, and it would show this limelight of who Jameson is in this movie. And I think if anything, that would be cool if Michael Keaton plays J. Jonah Jameson. I can totally see something like that happening. His name is just tossed into the arena for villain, so it's not really confirmed what villain he's playing, but I can totally see him as like J. Jonah Jameson all the way. So anything else I can think of villains they haven't used, I would like to see Scorpion done right, but they would have to change it for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I would say have Norman Osborn, who kind of is working for the government / military. He's kind of was not hired, but he has like this secret vendetta. See, I'm kind of like, I want to use Norman Osborn as a villain that you could actually use throughout the cinematic universe. He's a character that rivals a lot of the characters, and I think there's a lot of interesting storylines you can do, from Dark Avengers to using the Thunderbolts. You can have him create this group. He knows about these superheroes, and he's afraid that if what will they do if they're ever mind controlled or something. He creates this contingency plan to recruit villains to take them out if it was ever necessary. And I think that would be an interesting plot that you could just use right from the get-go for the first movie, and you can just have the Sinister Six in the first movie, and that could explain why you can do Iron Man and Captain America into the movie. They're extra heroes to help fight those characters, and I think that could be an interesting way, and it could have been led by Norman Osborn, who's constructing the group, and he's kind of like an outside force villain, but you can kind of see why he's kind of acting the way he is, because you can kind of do what they did for Batman v Superman. You can use that idea that during the fight of his building was destroyed, and there were plans originally in the Avengers movie. They used the Oscorp for a part of the skyline, and I think that could be an interesting way to go with that. You know, his building was destroyed, and he wants revenge, so he creates the Sinister Six or Thunderbolts, or even heck, start out the Masters of Evil. Yeah, I know you would have to use Baron Zemo for that, but you can switch things around for the comics. But again, there's many ways I think Norman Osborn could be the outer side villain. He's being developed as the villain throughout the franchise, which I can see. You know, do the Sinister Six straight up. You know, you can have like the street level based villains. You can have Shocker, Mysterio, Vulture, possibly Scorpion. You know, you can have those characters form as the Sinister Six, and Iron Man and Cap is just there to help Spider-Man defeat them, and I think that would be an interesting story that can work for the universe specifically. But again, this is just my speculations and my ideas. I hope I don't see right through it and see that's why they're being added into the movie as extra characters, because if they use the Sinister Six, you give them a reason to fight. You would give them a reason to have those characters in and help Spider-Man defeat them. So that's just something I thought of off the top of my head. Again, this is a spoiler alert. Where these are possible storylines that I can see happening in the new movie. So if there's any specific characters that you want me to talk about that I know of, I will, and I'll do my spoiler alert concepts for Justice League, and I want to do the Justice League one and the Green Lantern one. So I really just want to talk about those movies later in the wrong for the segment called Spoiler Alert. So yeah, I hope you like this video. Comment, rate, and subscribe. Bye.